We move through the world wrapped in skin, constantly touching and reacting to everything around us. All five senses exist for one main reason: to keep us in sync with our environment. And that environment is full of people. Humans survive by interacting with others. And interaction only works when communication works. Most people think communication means talking and listening. But that's only half the story. There's what we say with words. And then there's everything we say without them. Non-verbal communication, body language, facial expressions, tone, tiny movements, carries a huge amount of information. Most people never learn how to read it properly. They miss the signals, or worse, they misread them. If you want to analyze people, judge intentions, and spot who's genuine and who's pretending, you must learn to decode these nonverbal cues. People can fake smiles, words and stories, but their bodies leak the truth. Just remember, body language is powerful, but not perfect. Culture, personal habits, and individual quirks can change what a gesture means. So use what you're about to learn as a guide, not as an absolute law. In this video, we'll break down the main areas you need to watch: the eyes, the mouth, gestures, arms and legs, posture, head movement, and then we'll look at the classic mistakes people make when reading others. The eyes are one of the richest sources of information about a person's emotional state. There's a reason people call them the window of the soul. Eye contact is a key part of any conversation. How long someone looks at you, how often they look away, how fast they blink, even the size of their pupils. All of it sends signals. Direct eye contact usually shows interest and attention. The person is mentally with you. But extreme, unbroken eye contact can feel aggressive or unsettling. It can be a dominance play. On the other hand, someone who constantly looks away, breaks eye contact too often, or refuses to look at you at all may be distracted, uncomfortable, or hiding something. Blinking is normal, obviously, but the matters. When someone is stressed, anxious, or under pressure, they often blink more quickly. Someone who is trying very hard to control their eyes or emotions might actually blink less than usual, almost freezing their expression. Be careful here. Light levels affect pupil size, but once that's accounted for, emotions can also cause changes. Very dilated pupils can signal excitement, interest, or arousal. So if the lighting hasn't changed, but their pupils have, their emotions probably have. The mouth is another powerful source of nonverbal information. Tiny shifts in the lips can reveal what a person really feels, even when they're trying to stay neutral. Biting the bottom lip can point to anxiety, fear, or nervousness. Covering the mouth might be polite, hiding a yawn or a cough, but it can also be an instinctive attempt to hide disapproval, a smile, or a smirk they don't want you to see. Smiles are especially tricky. Not every smile is friendly. Some smiles are genuine warmth. Others are camouflage, used for sarcasm, fake politeness, or to mask irritation. Watch for these common cues. Can signal dislike, disapproval, or holding something back. Often shows worry, tension, or inner conflict. Can hide an emotional reaction, amusement, anger, or shock. Even small changes matter. A mouth gently turned up at the corners usually suggests a positive mood. A slight downturn can suggest sadness, doubt, or disapproval, even if the person says everything is fine. Gestures are the easiest part of body language to notice. Pointing, waving, thumbs up, thumbs down. We do them automatically, often without thinking. But some gestures are heavily influenced by culture, so you always need context. Here are a few examples. Might show anger and aggression in one situation, but in another, like a protest or rally, It can symbolize unity and strength. Generally means approval, suggests rejection or dislike. Social media has made these symbols even more universal. Made with the index and middle finger can mean victory or peace. But in places like the UK or Australia, if the back of the hand faces outward, it can be taken as rude or insulting. Never assume a gesture has the same meaning in every country or group. Always read it alongside the situation and the person. Arms and legs often reveal how open or defensive someone feels. Crossed arms are a classic sign of a closed-off or protective state. The person might be uncomfortable, guarded, or resisting what they're hearing. Crossed legs can also signal discomfort or emotional distance, especially when the body is angled away from the other person. Other useful cues. Someone spreading their arms or taking up more physical space can be trying to appear powerful, dominant, or in control. Someone who pulls in their arms, keeps their legs tight together, or shrinks into themselves may want to avoid attention or feels unsafe. Constant fidgeting, tapping fingers, or bouncing a leg can indicate boredom, frustration, impatience, or nervous energy. Posture is simply how a person holds their body, but it reveals far more than most people realize. Sitting upright, leaning slightly forward, usually shows interest and engagement. Slouching back, collapsing into the chair, or staring at the floor can show boredom, indifference, or emotional withdrawal. Look at the torso, the main body trunk. An open trunk, with arms relaxed and uncrossed, often signals a friendly, open, and welcoming attitude. A hidden trunk, protected by crossed arms or legs, usually suggests the opposite: guarded, anxious, or resistant. Posture answers quiet questions like, do I feel safe here? Do I trust you? Am I interested, or just waiting for this to end? Head movement is another underestimated channel of body language. It tells you a lot about interest, doubt, and control. Imagine a salesperson pitching to a client. If the client starts nodding quickly and repeatedly, that often isn't agreement. It's a sign they want the conversation to end. They've mentally checked out. Slow, steady nods, though, usually signal genuine interest and understanding. That's the moment to develop your point, not rush past it. Key head cues. In a group setting, if you're trying to identify who holds the real power, watch where heads turn. The person most people look at when decisions are being made is usually the one in charge, whether they have the title or not. Now that you've got a toolkit of cues, here's the trap. People often misuse them and jump to the wrong conclusions. Let's go through the big mistakes to avoid. You cannot read body language in a vacuum. The situation changes everything. Imagine this. You come home from work and find your daughter at the dining table. Her head is down on the table, eyes closed, body shaking. That's a red flag. She might be upset, ill, or in distress. Now, picture a different scenario. It's a freezing winter morning. The same girl is sitting outside on the front porch, head down, shivering, arms wrapped around herself. This time, the shivering is simply a reaction to the cold. Same physical cues, completely different meaning. If you ignore context, you will misread people badly. A single gesture rarely tells the full story. You need clusters of signals. For example, a woman sits with her legs crossed. That could mean she's defensive, or it could just be how she's comfortable sitting. But if her legs are crossed, her arms folded, and she's leaning away with a tight expression, or a backward head tilt, the message becomes much clearer. She's closed off or resistant. Always combine posture, facial expression, movement, and tone before you decide what something means. Most people listen to what's said and ignore what's shown. That's backwards. When body language clashes with spoken words, the body usually tells the truth. Think of a professor calmly explaining why students need more assignments and field work. His words sound supportive and educational, but his body gives him away. He tenses, shudders slightly, showing he's really thinking. You're adults. I shouldn't have to spell this out. Just do the work. When the message and the body don't match, trust the body. You can't read changes in behavior if you don't know what normal looks like for that person. Picture this story. Someone goes for a final job interview with the CEO. For 45 minutes, the CEO sits stone-faced, arms folded, no nods, no smiles, no emotional feedback at all. The candidate leaves convinced they've failed. Minutes later, the assistant says he was actually impressed. Turns out that blank closed posture is just the CEO's standard baseline. For him, is the real sign of rejection. Without knowing someone's typical behavior, you can easily misread their signals and project your own fears onto them. Culture shapes body language. What is polite in one culture is rude in another. In some African cultures, for example, a child is expected to look down or away when speaking to an elder. Direct eye contact can be seen as disrespectful. In many Western cultures, the exact same behavior might be read as weakness, dishonesty, or lack of confidence. So before you judge someone's body language, consider where they're from and what normal looks like in their world. Now, let's zoom out and look at what's happening inside the mind. To read thoughts through behavior, you first have to understand what thoughts actually are. When we think, we're either replaying something we've already experienced, or we're building something new from the pieces stored in our memory. Our senses, sight, sound, touch, taste, smell, and even our sense of balance, all feed into this process. When you remember a holiday, you don't just recall a sentence. You see the beach, hear the waves, smell the sea air, feel the heat on your skin. Your brain recreates the sensory experience. And when you imagine something new, you still use those same sensory building blocks, even if you've only picked them up from films, books, or other people's stories. Let's do a quick mental exercise. Imagine yourself walking along a beach. Feel the smooth sand under your feet. It's evening now, so the sand is a little cooler. The sun is dropping towards the horizon, so you squint slightly against the light. You hear the steady rhythm of waves breaking on the shore and the occasional cry of a seabird. You stop, breathe in deeply, and smell the salty air and seaweed. You bend down, pick up a shell, and run your fingers over its surface, feeling every ridge and curve. You slide it into your pocket and continue walking. In the distance, you hear voices. You look up and see a small food stall or cafe. The smell of hot food drifts towards you, and you suddenly realize you're hungry. Even though you're just sitting wherever you are right now, your brain likely created that scene. Images, sounds, smells, maybe even taste. That's how tightly thought and sensation are linked. Our senses don't just help us think, we also choose favorites. Different people naturally lean into different senses. Many people are. They think mainly in pictures. Others are more. They focus on sounds and words. Some are. They prioritize physical sensations and emotions. Pressure, temperature, tension, comfort. A smaller group are all about. And then there are the very logical, analytical thinkers. For them, the world is mostly facts. Yes, no, on, off, black, white. These preferences heavily shape how we experience reality and how we communicate. Moody cinematic lighting. Your dominant sense changes how you think, how you speak, and what you notice. Visual people use phrases like, "I see what you mean," or "that looks good." Auditory people say things like, "that sounds right to me," or "I hear you." Kinesthetic people ask, "how does that feel?" whether they're talking about physical pain or emotional state. Digital types talk in terms of logic and structure. That makes sense. That doesn't add up. Once you learn to spot these patterns in someone's language, you can get inside their mental world much faster and build rapport far more easily. Try this with me. Imagine picking up a lemon. Feel its weight in your hand, the slightly bumpy skin. Now imagine cutting it open. The sharp citrus smell hits you immediately. Picture yourself lifting a slice to your mouth and taking a bite. The sour juice floods your tongue. If you really engaged with that exercise, your mouth probably watered a little, even though there was no lemon anywhere near you. Your brain reacted as if the lemon was real. That's how powerful mental imagery is. For your nervous system, vividly imagined experiences can trigger very real physical responses. There's a popular model called LIM, lateral eye movement, which suggests that where people look while thinking can hint at their thinking. According to this model, looking often relates to visual memories, recalling something seen before. Looking links to visual constructions, imagining or inventing images. Looking can connect to remembered sounds. Looking can relate to invented or imagined sounds. Looking is associated with physical sensations and feelings. Looking can signal internal dialogue, talking to yourself, analyzing, logical thinking. Some researchers dispute how accurate this model is, but many practitioners still find it useful. The key idea is simple. Eyes can sometimes reveal the type of thinking, not just the emotion. If you want to experiment with this, ask gentle test questions and watch where the eyes go. For visual memory, what color is your front door? Can you picture your bedroom right now? For visual construction, can you imagine your name written backwards? For auditory memory, do you remember what your friend said to you yesterday? For imagined sounds, what do you think your favorite actor would sound like if they were whispering your name? For physical sensations, do you remember how hot it was last summer? For inner dialogue, run through your to-do list in your head. What's first? You'll start to see patterns in how people access different types of thoughts. Our dominant sense can even push us towards certain careers. Architects and designers need strong visual skills to build complex 3D images in their mind. Radio presenters and sound engineers live in the world of audio. Athletes and dancers rely heavily on kinesthetic awareness. They must feel their bodies precisely. Logical digital thinkers often gravitate towards law, coding, analytics, and similar fields. Studies suggest these patterns are common, even if they're not absolute rules. To influence or connect with someone, match their style. Talk in images to a visual. Use clear, structured reasoning with a digital thinker. Describe feelings, textures, and comfort to a kinesthetic person. If you don't, you get that classic clash. She says, "Can't you what I'm trying to say?" You reply, "you," but it just doesn't. You're both talking, but in different internal languages. What if you're speaking to a whole room, a team, a class, a client group? Then you need to hit all the channels. Use visuals, slides, diagrams, images for the picture thinkers. Use clear, well-structured explanations and logical arguments for the digital types. Use story, tone, and rhythm to engage the auditory people, and give the kinesthetic types something to handouts to handle, a demonstration, or a real-world example they can mentally step into. You might say, I want you to, how this could look in your business. If you really to the numbers, you'll why it works, and logically, it just. In one short message, you've spoken to all 4 groups. Shift as section title appears. Sometimes it's hard to work out someone's main preference. Some people use more than one equally. You can simply ask, how would you like me to explain this? They might say, show me, visual, talk me through it, auditory, let me get a feel for it first, kinesthetic, send me the details so I can look at the numbers, digital. You can also test like a smart salesperson. Start with a visual phrase, does this good to you? If that gets a strong response, keep using visual language. If not, switch to sound or feeling and watch what lands. Our preferred sense often shows up in our bodies too. Notice colors, shapes, lighting. Think and speak quickly because images come fast. Breathe higher in the chest. Often glance upwards when recalling or imagining, sensitive to sounds and tone. Speak at a moderate pace, with clear rhythm and melody. Breathe from the diaphragm. May tilt their head slightly as if listening. Focus on comfort, temperature, texture. Move and speak more slowly and softly. Breathe deeper from the belly. Value physical contact over eye contact. Neutrals, digital types are harder to spot. Some look like kinesthetics, but think like computers. Everything filtered through logic rather than sensation. One huge mistake people make, assuming that a lack of visible reaction means someone rejects your idea. Sometimes, they're just processing it internally through a different channel. Notice the speed of someone's speech and movement before you really dive in. It gives you a shortcut to their inner world. Visuals are fast, kinesthetics are slow, auditories sit in between. Match their general pace and you'll feel more on the same wavelength. You can even subtly mirror eye movements or posture to strengthen rapport. Their conscious mind may not notice, but their subconscious usually does. Once you understand which sense they favor, you know how they take in information, what persuades them, and what kind of language makes them feel understood. By this point, you've seen how tone, pace, posture, eye movement, and sensory language all combine into a single pattern. You no longer have to rely only on what people. You can watch how they breathe, where they look, how they move, which words they choose, and how their body contradicts or supports their story. That's how you read people. That's how you get behind the mask. Their body leaks what their mouth tries to hide. In the next part of this series, we'll go even deeper into how these patterns can be used, ethically, to influence, protect yourself, and navigate darker psychological games. Look forward to seeing you in part 3.